What's the crack? Explain it to me. How can I have the crack? What's the crack?
What's not the crack?
If you could explain what is the crack.
What is the crack? You are the crack.
Hi there and welcome to episode 7 of Audio Crack. We have a very special guest today, the Wonton Don. Always down for an episode in a pinch. We actually have a lot to cover today. There's been some pretty serious geopolitical news. Maybe I'm looking too far into it, but I want to get your take on it. Thank you to everyone who's been tuning in. Hopefully the audio, we're now using a great software called Riverside and recording from a different place where the audio has been much better. Hopefully you guys saw that on the last episode. We're going to continue this quality of audio and standard. This is now the bar. Hope you guys have been enjoying the last couple episodes. Just trying to bring you the most mind-tickling and stimulating topics, people to the pod, so you guys get addicted, so I can keep my job. But we'll keep on going. So Wonton Don's here, and Wonton Don, the Prime Minister of Slovakia, has just been shot. So if you didn't know, Slovakia is in the former Hungarian Empire. So head of state from Austria-Hungary has just been shot. So
I had no idea. I'm hearing it first from you.
Yeah. So
wow.
Don't know what the exact is, but like whenever there's an assassination of a head of state, actually he's alive. He's alive. That's great news. That's actually an update I just saw. So he's not dead. He's alive.
Oh,
but he's
okay.
been shot. Okay,
He's
that's
been
actually
shot.
really good news.
Maybe it was someone who was trying to bring back Czechoslovakia.
That is true. The thing is, that part of the world, there's Czech Republic, Slovakia, Slovenia, and was Austria in Czechoslovakia? And what is Slovenia? That's something we might need to delve into.
Slovenia is part of the Balkans. I know that. So Slovenia was when like Yugoslavia existed, Slovenia was a member of that, one of the member countries. It was the first to leave Yugoslavia. And so, yeah, it's actually got a tiny coastline in the like close to Venice.
Oh, Croatia pulled a Chile on Slovenia. Doesn't Croatia have all the
Croatia
coastline?
pulled Chile on Bosnia.
Oh, on Bosnia. Yeah, so that's where they take all the coastline so that the country has no coastline and can't really do any trading. But so here's the update. Prime Minister Robert Fico was shot in Handlova. He's been taken to the hospital. Shots fell in front of the House of Culture where the government was meeting when the Prime Minister came among the people. They did not see the incident, but he was close and heard several shots. Yeah, so he got popped. Damn. This is the stuff that used to start like world wars. So World War I was started by an Austrian-Hungarian head of state being shot in a foreign country, though, in I think it was Bosnia. Current-day Bosnia.
Yeah, like the country of Bosnia is called Bosnia-Herzegovina, and like Herzegovina is a part of it, and it was in Sarajevo. I've been there, beautiful city, but led to World War I.
Yeah, so hopefully we're not in those times anymore.
No.
I mean, I honestly feel like if a real head of state got assassinated, we would just not. It wouldn't be on site with whoever did it. We just try to like make sure war didn't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like if this guy died, and it looks like he may have been I think it may have had to do with his stance on the Ukraine war. We can check that out because someone said.
Yeah. I mean, that's my main concern for World War III, because I heard another European country was considering like backing up Ukraine. I think it was one of the Baltic states, like either like Latvia or Lithuania, was considering like providing actual troops like on the ground to help Ukraine.
Yeah, so during the 2023 parliamentary election, Fico ran on a campaign. So this is the guy who got shot. He ran on a campaign to seize military support to Ukraine during its invasion by Russia. Oh, okay. So someone from NATO may have shot him. This is someone who's pro-Ukraine who shot him. So he isn't pro procuring military aid for Ukraine. Huh. Okay. Yeah, so the Fico government has flatly refused to join a Czech-led coalition of about 20 states in procuring military aid for Ukraine. Okay, that's a little more worrisome. But I think that Baltic state didn't France send a couple troops to Ukraine recently?
I'd be surprised about that. I know it was a country that has a border with either Russia or Ukraine because they were like Ukraine was getting hammered and they're like if we invade here we'll be able to take a lot of the heat like off of them.
Yeah, it was probably like Lithuania.
Yeah,
which is probably like a bunch of Porzingises. That would be wild.
Bunch of Porzingises, yeah,
running up in your country.
my dad's grandfather moved to the U.S. from Lithuania.
Was he a gigantic human?
No, but but he wasn't short.
I wonder what the average height of a Lithuanian is.
Lithuania is very good at basketball.
Okay, so it's 5'11" is the average height of a Lithuanian man. So that's actually taller than most.
Porzingis is Latvian though. Don't get it confused.
Idiot.
It's crazy how like Hank went to Latvia just randomly with Clem, but now Porzingis is on the Celtics, so maybe he'll be going back to Latvia if they can win this year.
That was actually a wild, like him talking about Latvia was just like, yo, this place is terrible.
Well, they also went in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
With like zero plan. Their plan was just to like go to like Porzingis' hometown and like magically find his friends and family.
Huh. Yeah, so Latvians are 5'9" average.
Okay.
No, actually 5'11". The average height of a Latvian man is 5'11", and Estonian man is 5'9". So, hey. Moving on, what else is in the news? Biden wants to debate Trump. That was weird.
I didn't see that either. Yeah, I've not been staying up to date.
Dude, he was straight up just like, I'll not only debate you once, but I'll debate you twice. It was the funniest thing I've seen.
Now, yeah, no, I saw you posted that tweet. Do you think there's any chance that actually happens?
No, absolutely zero chance.
So we're just going to have zero debates this election cycle?
I mean, the last one we saw during the pandemic was terrible.
I know.
I mean, it made everyone just mad. It was just like, it was Biden going, why I oughta.
But I mean, it's content. It's content,
it is good
baby.
Content, but I mean, like,
I feel like in order to be president, you like have to be able to debate. That should be a prerequisite.
Dude, I mean, there's not enough debates in U.S. democracy. Like, I was hoping to get some debates in my brief political stint, but none.
I was actually rewatching my footage from Hong Kong Sevens, and I had like 3 random people there come up and like ask me, how is Billy's campaign going? Like, is he still on the ballot? Is he still on the ballot? Like all the way in Hong Kong.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
That's wild. That is actually mind blowing. People in Hong Kong are caring about Long Island.
Oh, well, one of the guys was like, I'm from Manhasset. Like he was very invested in the campaign.
Dude, Manhasset's been getting screwed. Like all their candidates from Manhasset were wiped off the ballot and they feel very underrepresented. That was a wild. So how have your lives been? So I know you just posted a couple your lives from Shanghai.
Oh yeah, so like the IRL live streams.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were a lot of fun. They went well. They did better than like live streams I've just done in like a room talking to people. And then like you also get like random fans just sending you money when you do that. Obviously I don't see any of that. It goes to Barstool, but that's a way to like show that this will pay for itself. So I think we have worked out a deal with Live U where they're going to cover a lot of the data costs. Because normally if you want to do those lives where you're just walking around a foreign country or something, it can sometimes be like $750 USD per month to cover the data costs. And they're just like, no, if you buy the backpack, we'll kind of cover the costs in exchange for just some promotion of our services.
Now, are you worried about stream snipers, or does Shanghai not have access? Does it broadcast in China?
I think it does, but like I don't plan to only do these in China. I plan to like if I get the capabilities, I would do them all over the place because it's a way to get content like the content to people faster. Normally, I film and then you got to spend like a month doing all the editing. This is just instant content, and I'm not worried about stream snipers and like why have there been some cases of people walking around IRL streaming and someone comes up and like sucker punches them in the face?
More just people trying to like video bomb and stuff.
Yeah, no, I think if like a fan wanted to come in and hop in, like I assume they'd be friendly. I wouldn't care.
Yeah,
That-
I mean,
yeah.
you've been seeing all these crazy streamers on Kick. Are you gonna start hunting pedophiles by chance? That's been a big
No,
one.
I saw that show though with that dude
Vitaly.
Vitaly, yeah,
Vitaly,
who used
dude.
to be like a big prankster, and then I think went off the deep end, and then like Steve Will Do It bailed him out of debt.
Yeah.
He's like Steve Will Do It was like, I used to watch your videos as a kid, like I always looked up to you, and then just like,
Well, you know what happened? I mean, Vitaly would love to have you on the show. Your story is very interesting, also tragic in some points. But he basically took a bunch of shrooms, was juiced up on roids, and he beat up a jogger who was a woman.
Jesus,
Like it was
that's
fucked
not
up.
good, dude.
Like he was so fucked up on drugs, and he says he doesn't remember it. Not that excuses him. He's now sober, I think. And now he's like many people who end up in prison or like deal with the judicial system. They now try to do good in the world and like hunt pedophiles. So it's very common amongst prisons. So,
Yes.
but that one, I think a guy got sucker punched by a stream sniper. One of the pedophiles that he was streaming got sucker punched by a stream sniper.
Yeah, I mean, if you expose this pedophile, there's probably gonna be a lot of people lining up to punch him in the face.
And then one of the guys that they caught was a producer from Disney, I think, and he produced like a bunch
my-
of kids movies.
Oh
And
my
they
god.
and then this guy like might be like Bradley Martin was with him. Who, if you don't know Bradley Martin,
Yeah, I
he's a
know him
big-
too.
He's a big jacked up like bodybuilder, and Bradley got like, I think this guy was well connected and scared off Bradley Martin, and Martin just like ran off the
Yeah.
stream. Like, who knows what kind of connections this guy has.
It's funny how like almost every Barstool employee is so different than like all the other internet content creators like out there.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
even though we kind of do the same job, it's just a completely different style.
It's like, I don't really identify as a content creator, social influencer.
A social influencer, yeah.
Like that's like, that word is kind of like, oh dude, what?
Well,
Like,
I recently went on my first influencer trip to Mexico.
oh, yeah,
and
how's
then
that?
when I showed up, first I didn't know if it was just like a small group of 5 of us, but no, it was like 50, 60 internet influencers. And like more than half of them were just reality TV show stars. It was like the cast of F-Boy Island, Too Hot to Handle, like Lovers and Liars.
Oh, that's why you with Polizzi?
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, while I met Polizzi at Joey Molinaro's apartment in Indiana, like
Oh, yeah.
a couple of years ago.
That was my first time meeting him, but I was like, hey man, like I've seen your content with Mantis and Joey.
He's chill.
Yeah. But I did think it was going to be like very awkward, just me hanging out with like influencers. I didn't really even like bring nice clothes. I had to go out and like buy a new shirt because I was like, I'm going to look so out of place. But then I met the Friday Beers guys there too. And so I was like, okay, it's not all like reality TV stars.
Which
got
guys
some,
did you
like-
meet? Rusty?
I met Angus,
Uh-huh.
I think Rusty, and then the guy who does the entrepreneur page,
Yeah, dude.
Royce DuPont.
Yeah, right, dude. They're actually hilarious dudes. I
Yeah,
met them
yeah.
at the PLL event.
Yeah, they were all just like friendly, normal guys.
Yeah. So when the influencers were like, I saw some of the stuff you put out, like demonstrating how the tequila is made, like cutting up agave and everything. How much more did you enjoy the experience because you like weren't trying to videotape every single moment of it versus them like trying to do everything and vlog everything?
Well, they were mainly like they were trying to take really cool selfies and like there was a couple like models and stuff. So obviously they're just striking crazy poses all over the place. But I did like vlog the whole thing. Like I did just have the GoPro running because I was like, this would make a hilarious vlog. I still haven't looked at the footage, but yeah, it should be good. Tequila Mexico, man, would highly recommend it. A cool thing I learned was that I guess Jose Cuervo invented tequila. Like it wasn't really a thing.
Huh.
And no hangovers the whole trip. I think the tequila down there is just like pure. Oh, and also the tequila there is 35% alcohol as opposed to 45%. So that could have helped. But I was like waking up feeling pretty refreshed every morning. And like meanwhile, during the day, I was guzzling tequila.
So is it so people say that the Jose Cuervo in the United States is fake?
I'm sure there is some fake stuff, but like I grew up like in high school, we would drink Jose Cuervo Gold, which is like their worst product that they make. Like now I can't even sniff Jose Cuervo Gold or else I'll start dry heaving just because I'm like, I'm traumatized from college.
Jesus. So it's that like there's a definite difference between the Jose Cuervo in Mexico and the one that they sell in the United States.
Yeah, but we were drinking like a higher quality. We were drinking Jose Cuervo Cristalino most of the time. That's what I was drinking. And then I went back to the US and I tried to get a shot and it was $25 a shot. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll do something cheaper.
Damn. Well, our topic that we're going to get into soon, if we don't have anything else, we're going to be just talking about the New World, just New World exploration, the Americas, the distinction in the time of basically there was the Old World, which wasn't all the way discovered from a Eurocentric perspective, but the possibility of this entire New World, like think about like a different planet.
Yes, exactly.
That's what people thought of the New World and unexplored lands. So like they had no idea what they were going to find. They had no idea what was out there, and to get there wasn't as easy as hopping on a plane.
It would take like 3 months at first. I think like the first journeys across the Atlantic would take like 2 to 3 months.
I mean, the thing is, sailing technology hasn't advanced that much since then, like for the big boats.
In terms of, but like now a boat can cross the Atlantic in like 4 days, I think 4 or 5 days, but obviously they're not sailing.
Yeah.
Back then they had to, that's the crazy thing. Like where you went would just depend on winds until they learned like how to tack or something like that. Like they learned a method to like move the sail so you could actually move forward against the wind by just changing the position of the sail. But for a while they didn't even know that. And so you could literally only go where the winds would take you.
Jesus, so it was a lot of just drifting. So a transatlantic crossing takes around 5 to 7 days on large passenger cruise ships. For a modern transatlantic sailing voyage, it takes about 2 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
So in the 18th century, it took about around 25 to 30 days. In the North Atlantic sailing packets in 1818 to 1832, it took around 21 to 29 days. Huh.
But then how long did it take Columbus?
So I think it took Columbus
2 months, I think, at least.
What are the boats?
The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria.
Oh, the journey in 61 days.
Okay.
He was pretty lucky. Huh.
Yeah. And Columbus knew the world was round. I think like most people, I think it's a common misconception that everyone thought the world was flat back then. Mm-hmm. Columbus, like he was like, yeah, I think the world is round, but he thought the world was way smaller than it actually was. When like a Greek mathematician way back in the day actually accurately predicted the circumference of the globe, like maybe around like 300 BC. Like he was super close. I don't know how he did it. Just I have no clue. But Columbus was like, no, that Greek guy's wrong. it's a much smaller world. So if I just sail for about like 3 weeks, I'll reach Japan.
Yeah. So the reason why the West Indies are called the Indies is because he was trying to get to the East Indies.
Yeah.
Or wait, is the West Indies?
So the West Indies are pretty much like the Caribbean. The
Yeah.
East Indies are like
Indonesia?
yeah.
Yeah.
And like the Moluccan Islands.
So that's
things
where he
like
was
that.
trying to go. And we're not going to talk that much about, we're going to talk about the Spanish Empire and whatnot, but we're not about to do like a fourth grade class on how Columbus discovered America.
Yeah, no,
because
no.
I just got to take. So Columbus thought the world was smaller.
Yes.
What if our world is actually bigger, and there are more undiscovered new lands that we just haven't?
That is, I mean, I wish that was the case because it would be really cool. But no, I mean, I do believe in satellites and Google Earth. You know, you can pretty much.
What if
see
there's a
everything.
straight up big continent that's beyond an ice wall? The Earth, not flat, the Earth is round, but it's bigger, and there's just a couple more continents that are ripe for some fun and like discovery.
I don't believe that. I mean, if you want to explore, I'm sure there are parts of the Amazon, at least Euro American people haven't made it to, and the bottom of the ocean. I guess we've only mapped like 10% of the bottom of the ocean.
So some other discoveries, New World discoveries. Everyone talks about Columbus, but the Vikings were probably the first Europeans to hit the Americas.
Yeah.
There's evidence that the Chinese may have gotten to the Americas first, as well as there might have been an Egyptian transatlantic trade. Because they found like a couple crops in the pharaohs. Tombs.
Yeah, they found a mummy that had like cocaine residue on it, and like cocaine's a New World crop.
Yeah.
But they also were like, I think that may have just been like tainted by one of the archaeologists who's probably doing bumps down there in the
Someone
tomb.
was doing bumps off a mummy.
Yeah.
They were trying to wake the mummy up.
Well, you know, like archaeology is a hard job. He probably just got like a little tired down there. But yeah, I think they also said there were like traces of tobacco like on the mummy too, which is obviously, that's a New World crop too. One rumor that like another reason why Christopher Columbus thought that he could reach Asia by going west is that some people in Ireland reported that some like really dark-skinned people washed up in logs like on the coast of Ireland, and then they're like, oh, those may have been like natives in canoes that got like blown off course and and ended up in Ireland. But there's only one source that reports that, and people are like, wouldn't that have been like a much bigger deal?
Well, the Irish monks were the first to get to Iceland.
Yeah, what are those? Oh, the Orkney Islands. I think those are those islands that are like way north of Ireland.
And then there's the Faroe Islands, which are between Iceland and Ireland.
Yeah,
another weird spot.
Yeah,
but so recent findings of cocaine, nicotine, and hashish in Egyptian mummies have been criticized on grounds that contamination of the mummies may have occurred. So people might have been just smoking hashish, doing cocaine, and smoking cigarettes around the mummies.
Yeah.
I mean, Egyptology is one of those things where back during Cleopatra's time, there were Egyptologists studying even more ancient Egypt.
Yeah. And then Napoleon really jump-started it again.
Yeah.
When he went back there, because he brought like tons of scientists. And then the one like last theory is that there was a like the Mali Empire in Western Africa.
Yes.
They have reports, and like I do believe this happened, that like their leader kind of built a fleet of ships and just took off west because he wanted to find new lands. and they never came back. And it was about like, I think it was like 300 people or something. They never came back. And then people claim that some of those huge head sculptures that they found in Mexico, like, look kind of African. And so there, and then like, I think there were some like reports in Aztec mythology of like meeting some dark-skinned people, and they're like, maybe they actually did make it, and those heads were based off them.
So there is some theories of Moorish Muslim explorers reaching the Americas from North Africa, pre-Columbian exploration.
I'm not talking about the Moors though. I'm talking about
the Mali, the richest empire of all time, right?
Oh yeah, I think because they had so much gold that when their leader like traveled through the Middle East, he caused inflation because he was just handing out gold everywhere.
Dude, Mansa Musa.
Yeah.
So Musa was himself considered one of the richest individuals in history. So they controlled and taxed the trade in gold from gold-rich regions, and his personal wealth ranges from 400 billion. It really depends on the price of gold, but in all places, he seems to be one of the richest people of all time.
Yeah. Wow. It says that when he went on that journey, he took 2,000 ships, 1,000 for himself and his men, and then 1,000 for water and food.
Jesus.
And then they never came back. Who knows? Wow. One thing that people actually do think is real is that the Phoenicians, they were like the best seafarers in the Mediterranean. Then like Carthage, that was founded by the Phoenicians. They were originally from the area around Lebanon today.
Yeah.
There is like reports that they circumnavigated Africa like way back in the day.
Oh wow.
And a lot of people think that could have been true if they just hugged the coast and kept on going, because they wrote a full report of the journey. They were the ones who said like, we found these like very hairy people that were like huge and super aggressive, and they're like, oh, they're probably talking about gorillas.
Whoa. Wow.
So I believe that. I don't really believe the Egyptians like made it to America. Like they would have no reason to, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, the trade, like Egypt used to be way different. Like it didn't used to be. I mean, if some people have seen the movie Sahara, that tries to say that the Sahara Desert was like a nice oasis back in the Civil War, like it definitely was a nice oasis before then, but they changed history to be like, yeah, these Confederate soldiers got in their armored boat and they wound up in the Sahara Desert because the Sahara Desert was like a swamp back then. What it was a swamp, but like literally millions of years ago. But it became
or at least like 25,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But so when it comes to the New World, like we could almost do a different pod on each topic. Like I could talk for days about the Aztecs and the Incans. But we could start off just about like how Columbus discovering the New World like changed the entire planet so much with the Columbian Exchange.
I mean, it literally created Italian cuisine as we know it today.
Yeah. Zero tomatoes in Italian cuisine. So I think Italians just consumed a lot of olive oil and bread. I think that was like, that's kind of what they ate. And also chili peppers. Chili peppers didn't really exist around the world until they were found in the New World. So now when you think of like Thai food is super spicy, Chinese food is very spicy. That food just like didn't really have spice.
Also pasta, not exactly Italian.
Do you think Marco Polo was the one who brought?
That's how they developed pasta.
Really? I thought they kind of had their like own version of it, and then they found it in China too.
No, I'm pretty sure noodles. Let me look up exactly what. So I'm pretty sure, like, pasta is not originally from Italy. While pasta is now a staple of the Italian cuisine culture, it did not originate in Italy. So pasta started in ancient China. In ancient Greece, there was a food called lagana, which was made of sheets of dough, but that wasn't exactly pasta.
Lasagna is my least favorite type of pasta.
Yeah. Arab traders likely introduced dried pasta to Sicily. So yeah, in the 8th and 9th century. So couscous is also in North Africa. Yeah, so at least the 13th century.
Okay.
So they probably found it, like noodles and like the noodle shape of pasta was definitely from Marco Polo's exploration.
Okay.
So that's wild.
Yeah.
Because like all of Italian cuisine, like people are like, oh, red sauce, like macaroni and gravy. Like,
yeah. And actually at first it was like Spanish cuisine came to be known as like, that's the cuisine that uses tomatoes because they were the first ones to have tomatoes. And then it traveled from Spain to Italy. And then obviously potatoes, like the Irish didn't have potatoes until the discovery of the New World.
And nicotine, tobacco.
Yeah. Tobacco was the first crop, like the British, like the first profitable crop the British like found in the New World. Because they like the first colony they tried to start was Jamestown.
Yeah.
And I looked it up. I was shocked at how many people died. I guess 8 of every 10 people they sent to Jamestown died. But they just kept on sending more and more people because they were like, no, this colony has to work or we're just going to lose so much money. Let's just keep on trying. And they tried for I think altogether, maybe they had sent like 3,000 people and like the vast majority of those people died. And because they got on really bad terms with the local native leader. So then like for a while they had a deal where the native leader there would like provide them food. But then some of the colonists killed some of his men. So he was like, okay, no more food. And they all started to starve. And then the natives would just like, every time one of them wandered off, would just kill them. But then they called a ceasefire. Pocahontas helped call they kidnapped Pocahontas, brought her to England, and then brought her back. And eventually they kept her so long that she kind of got Stockholm syndrome and was like, no, I like living with these guys. So then they used Pocahontas to call a ceasefire. And they're like, we won't kill Pocahontas. Just like leave us alone. And then that's when they started to grow tobacco. And once they got Europe hooked on tobacco, it was just like, it was extremely profitable.
It's crazy how many inventions were made once coffee got around Europe. But do you think is there an invention spike you think once tobacco got to Europe?
Yeah, I mean, I guess nicotine does help you. Like if I'm grinding out video editing, I do love some nicotine.
I mean, I'm pretty sure physics and Isaac Newton may have like been literally the result of just coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that could be true. I guess like Virginia tobacco was seen as like a second tier tobacco at first, and the best tobacco was from the Caribbean or from
Cuba,
South America. Yeah.
Hispaniola.
Yeah.
So wait, are you talking about the original Roanoke colony? They had the 8 and 10 death rate, right?
Oh, but no, so
Jamestown also?
Roanoke got completely wiped out. They went back to checking it and it was just gone. So that's that's 10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. I didn't know Jamestown was actually that high.
It was like, yeah, the first, 5 years, it was so high.
Like Roger Williams and all them?
Yeah. I don't know if Roger Williams came over at first or later, but like the first Jamestown, it was like John Smith.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Smith.
Shout out John Smith. John Smith wrote an autobiography that's like the most insane thing ever that people are like, I think he probably made most of this up.
I mean, you could back then.
Yeah, you could just write your own autobiography and make up a bunch of shit.
I mean, no one has the balls to do it nowadays, but I feel like if you did, it would be hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, some people think that Marco Polo just like made up the whole thing, but then like they've gone back and they're like, wait, there's no way he could have like known about this if he hadn't actually gone to China. So at least like parts of it have to be true.
Oh my God, the thing that okay, yeah. So his autobiography says that he had military exploits in Europe. He was captured by the Ottomans, his role in founding Jamestown, and yeah, he may have just lied about his whole relationship with Pocahontas and it being like they were
Yeah.
in love. Like the Stockholm syndrome may have been just like not real. That she hated
Yes.
it.
No, he claims that like, so he was kidnapped by the chief there and he was like, the chief was about to kill me, but then Pocahontas came out and was like, no, I love this man, don't kill him. I think that part was completely made up.
Just capping.
But yeah, no, he claims he was like a slave to the Ottomans for a while and then was, yeah, who knows.
I kind of want to get into a little bit of the Chinese exploration because that's an interesting one. Because there, if you read the book 1424, 1421, basically, they like when China colonized the Americas. So they said like the Chinese colonized America and introduced crops like corn and potatoes to the world. And actually, they're like, yeah, that's why this guy's hypothesis is that like China traded all around the world and they're the ones who spread everything.
So yeah, it was all based on a Zheng He, which was this like I don't know if it was the Ming or the Qing, but like they built this huge fleet and they were like, go out and just kind of like let the world know how like cool we are. Be like, just travel around the world and be like, look, we're China, we're rich, we're powerful. Let's trade, but just know we're better than you. And like they did go all the way to Africa. They like went to India, they went to the east coast of Africa. And then the guy who wrote that book is like, well, if they went all the way there and like on this huge fleet, maybe they went to America, but
Yeah.
I don't think there really is any proof.
This Menzies guy has actually like written a lot of pretty out there books. Now that I'm looking at this, like a lot of his stuff has been he like believes in that Atlantis existed, and he wrote the book that you recently read, right, about colonization of the New World.
No, I don't think he wrote that. Wait,
Gavin Menzies.
no, I don't think he wrote 1493, which
Oh,
is
he
the one I'm
didn't?
reading right now. But yeah, 1493 was written by someone else. Yeah, Charles Mann.
Okay.
But
Okay.
but then it was crazy. Like China had that huge fleet. They were like exploring the world, and then all of a sudden, the emperor was like, "No more ships," and just demanded that like every large ship in China be destroyed because he was like he was just worried about foreign influence. So like China went from like a really outward looking society to just inward looking in the span of like a year. They just had to like the only ships they kept were like ships that could just travel along the coast or travel up and down like rivers. Every ocean going vessel he just had burned.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like the Mongols when the Mongols were just like about to take over Europe, and then their leader died, and was just like, "Come back."
Yeah. But also like that's harder to believe too because crossing the Pacific Ocean is so much harder than crossing the Atlantic Ocean.
By the way, you know what's really weird? The Pacific Ocean is way shallower than the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, okay.
So it's like
But
that was
then
the weird.
but then also the deepest part of the oceans is in the Pacific near
Yeah.
the Marianas Trench.
I think it's shallower on average. Like it has huge stretches that are.
But still it's deep enough for you to drown in, so it doesn't
Yeah,
really
no,
matter
absolutely.
how shallow it is.
Wait, you know what? I'm totally wrong on that. The
Okay.
Pacific is also our planet's deepest water body with an average depth of approximately 4,000 meters. So why did I
Maybe
get
you were
that?
thinking of the Indian Ocean.
There's a hella shallow ocean that you don't think is shallow, like
The Indian
comparatively.
Ocean, I would say. I could see that being shallow.
Yeah.
Um, if you want to talk some more about China, though, so the Spanish discovered the New World, and they start to colonize Mexico. First, they conquer the Aztec Empire,
Hmm.
and then that becomes the viceroyalty of New Spain. And then they conquer the Incan Empire. That becomes like the viceroyalty of New Granada or something. I forget. But and then they start. They found a colony on the west coast of Mexico, Acapulco,
Hmm.
and from there, I forget who was the first person to do it, but someone makes it from Acapulco all the way to the Philippines, and that was like a 4 month journey. And when they arrive in the Philippines, they also find some Chinese traders there, because I guess at that point China was like selling or trading silk to the Philippines, and so they meet the Chinese and they're like, wait, we need silk. Like, can we start trading? And so they had all the silver from the New World. We'll talk about that soon. And so they started to travel from Mexico to the Philippines, where they would trade with the Chinese, because the Chinese had so many things that Europe wanted. The only thing that the Europeans had was South American silver.
Huh.
So then they would give the Chinese silver, and the Chinese would give them silk, porcelain, all this stuff, and then they would bring it back to Mexico, and from Mexico it would go back to Europe. So when they established that trade, that was the first time that the entire world was linked via trade.
Whoa.
Well, I guess it had been linked via, well, yeah, I guess the whole world, because before, if Europe wanted anything from China, they'd have to go through the Silk Road, and the Silk Road was dominated by Muslims, and like Muslims and Christians weren't on good terms then. So like that trade was tough, and they would charge crazy prices. So this was the first time that they could kind of like almost directly trade with the Chinese.
You know what just reminded me of that? Isn't it so crazy that Islam spread so far into the Pacific? Like, didn't like Islam even get to the Philippines?
Yeah, I know it would like it made it to Indonesia,
The
stuff like
largest Muslim country in the world, which is like fun fact.
yeah, where like yeah, and that's because like Muslim traders would just go all over the Indian Ocean. So you don't think about that as much, but yeah, like the Muslim traders in the Middle East, East Africa, they would, because like the Indian Ocean, I guess, is easier to navigate because a lot of the
Mhm.
times you can sort of hug the coast or whatever. So, you know, they would probably stop off in India, and then from India head to the rest of Southeast Asia.
Yeah, I mean, like the Philippines has ISIS. That's
The Philippines, yes, no, the southern. It's funny. Like a lot of the Philippines are just super Christian, but then a few of the southern islands are very Muslim.
I mean, how did it get there? Yeah, through the Malay, yeah, Muslim Malaysians? Are the Malay different than Malaysians?
The
Yeah.
the the Malay are from the Malay Peninsula.
Oh, okay.
Well, so the same thing happened with Buddhism too, because like Buddhism started in India, but then it also like made it to all of those islands too, and also like obviously made it to China and Japan.
Huh.
Um, but yeah, no, I think how did what does it say? How did Islam spread to
So,
Indonesia?
the faith was first recorded monotheistic religion in the Philippines. Historically, Islam reached the Philippine archipelago in the 14th century. through contact with the Muslim, Malay, and Arab merchants along the Southeast Asian trade networks. In addition to Yemeni missionaries from the tribe of Alawi of Yemen, from the Persian Gulf, southern India, and their followers from several sultanates in the wider Malay archipelago. The first missionaries then followed in the late 14th and early 15th century. So basically, the Indonesia and the Malay and Southeast Asia they were heavily impacted by Arab traders, and then from there they went all across the Pacific.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so Muslim sultanates had already begun expanding in the central Philippines by the 16th century when the Spanish fleet led by of Magellan arrived. The Spanish referred to Muslim inhabitants of Philippines as Moros, after the Muslims Moors, and regarded with disdain in Iberia. Oh, so then the Spanish conquest was very important in the Philippines, which is why Catholic Christianity became the most predominant religion in the region.
Yeah.
Whoa. So I think that takes us Spanish silver.
Oh yeah. So there was obviously silver in the world before, but when the Spanish conquered the Incan Empire, they literally found a mountain just made of silver. So then, I think it was in Bolivia, but they found so much silver there, it was insane. What they thought was pretty much unlimited silver. If you look it up, I think the name of the town where they had all the mines was called Potosi or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was as close to a mountain of silver as you could find. Let's see. Let's see what it says.
The Caro Rico.
So yeah, it's called Potosi, Potosi, and so they called Cerro Rico, Rich Mountain, which is like a 4,000 meter mountain that was just filled with silver. So they say that actually 60. So this mountain, or the town of Potosi, its silver mine became the source of 60% of the world's silver.
Jesus.
And so they obviously started bringing it all back to Spain, and then Spain quickly became the richest empire on earth.
Wow.
They kind of just had unlimited money, which you think would be a good thing.
Bad
but
thing.
Well, I mean, it did, for probably 200, 300 years, Spain was the most powerful power on earth. So I guess it worked out for them for a while, but because they thought they just had unlimited money, they got involved in a bunch of wars. They fought an 80-year war against the Netherlands, because the Netherlands all used to be part of the Spanish Empire. But then they were like, we're Protestant. We don't want to be controlled by this Catholic power. So there were revolts for over the course of 80 years, and Spain just kept on pumping more and more money into kind of trying to quell these revolts. And they would go into debt, and pretty much everyone in the world was willing to lend them cash, because they're like, well, we'll obviously be paid back. These guys have unlimited funds of silver. And then I guess maybe after 100 years, the silver mines started to run out.
Yeah. So by 1565, Cerro Rico had run out of high-grade silver ores. Nowadays, they still get silver from that mountain because we have more advanced extraction. And it then began anew a couple years later, after they started patio process using mercury to form silver amalgams and extract silver from low-grade ores. So they had a bunch of, in 1565, they depleted high-grade ores. So it was literally just a mountain of silver.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight up, high-quality silver, the ore, high-quality silver ore, everyone's played those weird games where you have to collect ore to like smelt into silver, like Skyrim. Like this was the good stuff. This is the
Yes.
good ore.
It was the good stuff. And like, I think for a while during that time, the Spanish peso became the world's first world currency, kind of like the US dollar is now. Just the Spanish silver was like so high quality that they were even using the Spanish peso in China, and using it like all over Europe. But like Spain went into huge debt fighting all these wars, because they thought they could just keep on getting more and more silver. And then, I guess like all of this influx of silver into Europe caused crazy inflation too, because it's kind of the equivalent of like, okay, you have the money supply, and then you just like create all this new money out of thin air.
Wow.
And so it led to crazy inflation. Spain went into debt fighting all these wars. And then they finally, in the 16th century or in the 17th century, they started to default on their debts. And that led to like revolts in the Americas against the Spanish Empire, I think like in Spain. And then eventually the monarchy was overthrown, I think. So, and you know what actually really sped up the downfall of the Spanish Empire is when they sent the Spanish Armada to England, because
they sunk them all.
Yeah, it was I think it was like partially due to a storm. They just got caught in like a bad storm, but Spain had sunk a crazy amount of money into building like the most powerful armada the world had ever seen. And they had gotten into a war with England, sort of based off of the war they were already in against the Netherlands. England came into the war on the side of the Dutch. Yeah. The Dutch. So they were supporting the Dutch, and then like Spain was like, and they also just started to pirate like all of the Spanish ships that were coming from America filled with riches. And it was kind of like, it was called privateering because it's like state sponsored pirating. And so Spain was like, all right, we need to teach the English a lesson, sent the Armada, and I think like 90% of the ships sunk. And so they lost a lot of money there. And that was kind of the start of the downfall of the Spanish.
What's crazy is that some people say that empires never fall, they just change. So for example, like the Roman Empire never fell, it just became the Catholic Church. And like the Eastern Roman Empire became the Eastern Orthodox Church. And then they say the British Empire became a banking empire out of the city of London.
The British Empire almost just became America almost.
But like because of the British banking empire that was established through basically gaining all the resources and lending it out. And like they were lending it out, like for example, the Roanoke colony was like an investment that they made to lend out to hopefully get more.
Yeah. Colonies were kind of the first stock
startups
companies. Yeah, they were the first because one person trying to fund the start of a colony would be way too expensive. So they're like, if we just get, 20 rich people and each person invests some into the startup of the colony. If it fails, that sucks, but it's not going to be completely like ruinous. Like everyone will just lose a portion of their investment and not like the entire investment. So yeah, I think like colonies were kind of the first corporations almost.
Yeah, and I mean that is kind of how like the English Empire was basically a giant investment bank. And like we don't think about the financials behind like the Spanish Armada, but it was literally just like a loan. Like we're going to take this money to make the Spanish Armada to hopefully get returns on it when they go raid places, bring stuff back.
Yeah.
So what's funny is like, what did the Spanish Empire like turn into?
They were obviously still an empire, but they became the Bourbons. I think like the Bourbon family took over Spain. Don't really know, but I know like they weren't as powerful because like I think around this time all of their uh, colonies in the New World started to revolt. So like
Yeah.
New Spain turned into Mexico. Um, like the viceroyalty in South America eventually turned into Peru and Colombia, Venezuela. Uh, I don't know too much about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy like how big like Spanish music listenership is. So for example, there's all these songs that are just so like numbers wise are so much more popular than a lot of hit songs we know here, but it's just because there's the entire South America that's listening to them and Spain.
Yep.
And like it's
And
crazy.
the Philippines probably too.
Yeah, and the
A
Philippines.
lot of people speak Spanish there too.
Yeah. But it's just a wild like it's so interesting to like for example debt, right? Like the idea of lending money and like going on a venture, like venture capital, which a venture used to be like an adventure, like
Yeah.
going somewhere to in the whole way that banking sort of arose. And you know, you can be critical of capitalism and relate like capitalism straight to colonization, but it absolutely is because it's like they used to give, you know, you're Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus goes to uh, King Ferdinand and Isabella, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and was like, I need a loan. And these royals were basically bankers, and they go, hey Ferdinand and Isabella, I need a loan to go try to get you guys riches, returns on the money you're about to give me, and I need money to buy assets, sunk costs literally, boats,
Yes.
like
Yes.
buy boats, go on this new venture and try to bring back returns to pay you dividends on the money you gave me. It's one of the cool, like when you explain it like that, all like the weird finance stuff and like kind of boring finance stuff sort of kind of sounds a little cooler. Like it's like, oh, like this is based in like a bunch of dudes getting on a ship and going to find stuff. Like,
yeah. And like
wild.
a couple of the first conquistadors, like they hit it big. Like Cortes when he found the Aztec Empire, and then Pizarro when he found the Incan Empire. So after those two crazy successes, where they're like, holy shit, we just like conquered an entire like new empire we didn't even know existed and just absorbed it into ours. That like motivated a lot of other people. They're like, well, there has to be more in the like on this continent. There have to be some other empires that we can do this to. So like that's what led to I don't know, like people exploring Florida, the Southwest US, the Amazon, but they never really were able to hit it as big.
Yeah, I mean, so Columbus was actually jailed because he wasn't able to pay back some of his debts to the crown. And they also said that it was because he was mistreating the native population. We're not dismissing like the conquistadors and Columbus did some really fucked up shit over there.
Oh yeah.
We're not dismissing that, but
No.
they arrested him for being unable to uh like so he and his heirs claimed they were owed money by the crown, but the crown was just like, no, we're just gonna jail you.
Yeah. Because Columbus like he mainly just found Hispaniola,
Yeah.
which is now the Dominican Republic in Haiti, and like they
Cuba.
found like a little bit of gold, but not that much, and they just like forced all of the natives to just constantly be searching for gold, and they're like, if you don't find any, we'll chop off your arm. And like they weren't finding a lot of gold just because there's not a lot of gold there.
Jeez.
And that like it wasn't until they started to like grow sugar on those islands that they became super profitable.
Jeez.
And also, let's bust a myth. I know there's a big myth where it's like Cortes conquered the Aztec Empire with only 600 people. So the Aztecs were known for human sacrifice. And what they would do is once a year, they would attack one of the neighboring groups of people there called the Tlaxcalans and just capture as many people as possible and then sacrifice them in a ceremony. Because they thought if they stopped sacrificing humans, the sun would stop rising. So when Cortes arrived, he found a lot of people in Mexico that just hated the Aztecs. So he allied with the Tlaxcalans. So it was like him and his like, I think altogether, once he got reinforcements, he had about like 1,000 people from Spain. But then he allied with like a 100,000 person army.
That's insane.
So it was not just Cortes. It was Cortes and 100,000 native allies.
Dude, did you see the Eclipse recently?
No, I was in Hong Kong for that.
So I saw the Eclipse.
Yeah?
I was in the path of totality. Don't mean to brag.
You were?
Yeah, I was up there.
Was it actually cool?
It was insane. It was insane because I had the glasses on and all it looked like was like, a white circle just slowly getting enveloped by a black circle. But then once the black circle totally enveloped the white circle in the glasses, you just heard this whole crowd going, take the glasses off, take the glasses off. And I'm like, don't take the glasses off. Like, that's the one thing we're not supposed to do. But then I took my glasses off to glance for a second, and it was the most like surreal lighting around you. This big thing in the sky it looked like a ring in the sky that was giving off like ethereal lights, and it was the wildest thing I've ever seen. And in that moment I was like, because you can't see the eclipse coming when you're without glasses. Literally, just if you weren't looking at the sun, like if you didn't know it was coming, and then for 30 seconds you just saw this crazy thing in the sky, because without the glasses, and it just looks like the sun is regular. It maybe looks like clouds are in front of it or something, but you wouldn't be able to see the actual process slowly happening. But when it becomes the path to totality and it's fully covered, it's an absolute crazy ring. And it looks like some of the biblical depictions of angels early on, it looks like.
And did it actually get pretty dark outside?
It got super dark, but the ring of light that was like emitting from the sky was so crazy and weird that I know that right before Columbus arrived, or the conquistadors arrived, they saw an eclipse. So if I saw an eclipse and had no idea what it was, I'd absolutely freak out and be like, we got to sacrifice all the people to make sure the sun comes back, because they're probably just testing us.
Yes. I think there was one conquistador he was trying to like prove to them that like he was a god or something like that. Oh yeah, it was Christopher Columbus. Like the natives wanted to kill him, and then he knew there was going to be an eclipse in like a few days. And so he was like, hold up, don't kill me, or else like if you kill me, I'll make the sun disappear. And then the eclipse like happened.
Dude, it was straight up Columbus.
Yeah,
so it was the 1st of March, 1504.
Yeah, when he got stranded on the island of Jamaica for like a year, and like the natives were like closing in trying to kill him. And then 3 days before the eclipse, Columbus requested a meeting with their chief and informed him that his Christian God was very angry with his people for no longer supplying him and his men with food. Therefore, he was going to provide a clear sign of his displeasure. 3 nights hence, he would all but obliterate the rising full moon, making it appear inflamed with wrath. So maybe it was a lunar eclipse, which would signify evils that would soon be inflicted upon all of them.
Oh my God.
And then that happened. and the natives were terrified, and so then they started to provide them with food again.
Jesus. Was it Apocalypse Now? Or no? Apocalypto?
Apocalypto, yes.
Was there a eclipse in that right before the conquistadors arrived?
The story that I know is that there was a comet, there was a comet in the sky that
Whoa.
Montezuma saw as a bad omen.
Damn.
I mean, they have to make a miniseries similar to Game of Thrones or something like that, and this could span like 6 seasons. That just covers Cortes from like when he was living in Cuba, I think it was, to the conquest of the empire, because it's an insane story.
I mean, and also like the Tenochtitlan was an insane city in itself.
Yeah, it was
a floating city.
Yeah, it was kind of like Venice. It was made on an island in the middle of a lake, and they pretty much used canals with canoes in them to get around. And at the time, it was larger than every European city except for Constantinople.
Wow.
They think, but like all these people were from Spain. So imagine traveling across the ocean for 3 months and then like hiking into this valley, and then you find a city that's larger than any place you have seen in Spain.
Oh my God.
I think I saw this historian on TikTok. He was saying that the Mexico Valley, where it was, because there was the city in the middle of the lake, but then there were cities all like on the sides of the lake too. He said like the Mexico Valley was the most densely populated place on earth at that time.
Wow. Lake Texcoco.
Yeah.
Is now where current Mexico City. Yeah. So it was founded because they put it there because they were looking for a sign for I might butcher this, but a eagle holding a snake.
Yeah. And yeah, eagle holding a snake on like a certain type of tree.
Yeah, on a cactus. Yeah, so they saw an eagle perched on a cactus eating a snake. When they saw this exact scene on an island, they interpreted it as a sign from their god and founded Tenochtitlan on that island. So yeah, so it was on an island that was once Lake Texcoco. That's why they did it there.
Yeah.
Wow, and they just built it there. Though it was
wild.
Like the worst place to build it.
Yeah, because I think after the Spanish conquered it, like they were building their own city there, and it kept on flooding, and I think you would have a lot of malaria or whatever, and so they eventually just filled in the whole lake. That's why you go to Mexico City now, there's only like really tiny remnants of the lake, but it's pretty much all gone.
Wow. Yeah, so Mexico City is currently where it stood.
Yes.
Pretty sure.
Yep. But is.
Where's Lake Tex? Oh my! So they just filled in the whole lake?
Yeah, the entire lake got filled in and built upon.
Oh my God! So where did the water go? How did they do that?
Well, they did that in Boston as well, because like Boston used to be only connected to the mainland by this like tiny spit of land, so it was almost an island. Yeah. And now there's like a giant neighborhood in Boston called Back Bay, and Back Bay used to just be a giant bay, but they just they filled it in.
Oh my God! So Mexico in 1607. So the Spanish, who completed the conquest of central Mexico in 1521, did not drain the lakes and fill them. Most of the draining and filling of the lake beds that modern Mexico City is built on was done between 1850 and the 1950s. Okay, it was a modern Mexican government working on industrial scale projects. It was done by Mexicans, not the Spanish. Okay, so the Spanish didn't drain it.
Okay, so I guess it was still like an island city up until the 1800s?
Yeah, so how did they? So what did Mexico City look like in 18?
Yeah. That's what I want to know, because I thought they like filled it up pretty soon after.
So in 1800, okay. the history of Mexico City. So they had a lake around it into, yeah, so 1850s growth of the city. Mexico City in 1690. Okay, so that was after the 1690 was after the conquest, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of lake around it, and they drained it, and then had a water crisis after they drained it. So since Mexico City was built on an island in the center of a large but shallow lake system, flooding became a serious issue during the colonial period. Spaniards denuded hillsides of their trees from the early conquest era on, so that mud and silt made the lake system even shallower, exacerbating the periodic flooding. So there was major floods in Mexico City in like 1555, 1580, 1604. And they finally, in 1607, they built an 8-mile long combination drainage ditch and tunnel. In 1608, the work was continued. 1629, it flooded again. So they just had a serious flooding problem up until the 1763. And then the city was able to grow as the waters of the lake receded. In 1700, the city advanced towards the east and south and west. So they then did the filling in with ballast and whatnot, and then they finally just drained it. They did a industrial drainage in the 1830s during the U.S. invasion of the Valley of Mexico. Its army made a study of the problem, but the withdrawal of U.S. forces with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo put an end to that attempt. Yeah, I didn't realize the U.S. got all the way to the Mexico City.
Oh, during the
so
Mexican-American War?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they got all the way down there. That was I think that was a pretty easy win for us.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to check out this map, Mexican War map.
So a crazy thing is that Cortez's treasure is still somewhere buried underneath Mexico City. Because at one point he had to fled Tenochtitlan with all of his people, and they took like all the treasure in the city. But then they got like knocked off the causeway and ended up having to swim. And so they would have drowned if they tried to hold on to the treasure. So they just let all the treasure sink into the lake, and they made it to the shore. But they have never been able to recover that treasure from the lake. So now it's probably just somewhere deep underneath Mexico City.
Wow. Okay, so yeah, they hit Mexico City both by boat in 1847 and by land. Jeez.
The Americans took boats against Mexico City?
Yes, Scott.
Because
Scott.
That's what Cortez did too. Like after he had to flee, he spent like 6 months or a year building ships. And he built ships for the lake, and then he launched a naval attack on the city. And that was the only way because like if they just tried to march on the causeways, they all would have been picked off. So he had people arrive. He had ship builders arrive, and just they built ships, and then boom.
Yeah, so U.S. forces quickly occupied the regional capital of Santa Fe de Nuevo Mexico. Oh, so yeah, so they took Santa Fe, and the Pacific Squadron of the U.S. Navy blockaded the Pacific coast in the lower Baja California territory. Wow. Okay. Yeah, Winfield Scott. So yeah, Winfield Scott left New Orleans and took boats and captured the capital city, Mexico City, in September 1847.
Okay.
Wow. That's
also the war where Ulysses S. Grant earned his stripes.
Yeah. What did he get up to?
He was good. He was just seen as like a really good soldier in that war. And he was known for being incredible on horseback.
Yeah. So former U.S. President Ulysses Grant attributed Mexico's defeat to the poor quality of their army, writing, "The Mexican army of that day was hardly an organization. The private soldier was picked from the lower class of the inhabitants when wanted. His consent was not asked. He was poorly clothed, worse fed, and seldom paid. He was turned adrift when no longer wanted. The officers of lower grades were but little superior to the men. With all this, I've seen as brave stands made by some of these men as I've ever seen made by soldiers. Now, Mexico has a standing army larger than the United States. They have a military school model after West Point. Their officers are educated, no doubt very brave. The Mexican War of 1846 to 48 would be impossible in this generation. Huh. I mean, yeah, they routed them pretty well.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Did you know that like France sent an emperor to like be the emperor of Mexico?
When? After?
So after Mexico gained its independence, and it was a republic at first, but then they were like, I don't know, France sent this dude who was like related to the royal family in France, and they were like, now you're going to become the emperor of Mexico. But so it started a civil war, and he lost and was killed. And
Crazy.
apparently he like didn't really want to go. He was like, I don't know if they're gonna like me there, and ended up getting his head chopped off.
Jesus. Did you hear about St. Patrick's Brigade, I think, or it is, or that might be the one in the Civil War, but the Irish American dudes who like were sent to fight in the Mexican American War, and they're like, no, you know what? We're fighting for the Mexicans. These guys are good crack. Like, these guys drink tequila, they party. Like, we're fighting with the Mexicans. They're Catholic.
Yeah, because they could probably relate. They're like, I don't like, if I'm supporting America in this war, it feels like I'm supporting the British. I don't know.
Yeah. So the San Patricio Brigade was organized from pre-existing units of foreign soldiers who fought for the Mexican army from the beginning of the war.
Okay.
Oh, during the Mexican American War, Irish Americans fought for Mexico in the St. Patrick's Battalion. Yeah, it is.
Oh, and also they were probably both Catholic.
Yeah. A group. Yeah, so they all got hung in 1847.
Damn.
Yeah. So they.
Dude, the Civil War and stuff, that must have sucked because a lot of immigrants had just arrived in America because they were fleeing wars in Europe, and they were like, I can't deal with all these wars. I'm moving to America. I'm going to start a new life. And then the moment they arrived, they were like, you have to fight in the Civil War now.
Yeah. And basically there was like battles that were just Southern Irish immigrants versus Northern Irish immigrants. And they were kind of like, wait a second, what the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, like, wait. And they were like cheering each other on. I think Shane Gillis had a funny bit about that. But because I think it was at Antietam. I think how many Irish fought the Paddy's Lament? So the Confederacy, the 10th from Nashville, the Fighting 69th in the Union Army, and then there was the 10th Regiment Confederate. I think they fought each other. I need to find that because that's also more of a mind fuck. Like getting off a boat and just ending up fighting your own countrymen.
Yeah.
Just like in this random battle that you're both there because they feed you, clothe you, and give you something to do that might get you a house one day.
Yeah, and like the only reason is just where you landed in America. Like if you landed in the South. I mean, most of them probably landed in the North, but there were still people moving to the South.
I mean, imagine like you're sending letters to your brother or something who went to the other side, went to the North, and you're like, yo, we're both fighting in this war, right? We're probably on the same side, right? Like,
yeah,
where did you land? And they're like, oh shit.
So actually, you know how I was saying that Cortes had the help of the Tlaxcalans?
Yeah.
So like that is still the name of like one of the states in Mexico, because like because like the Spanish tried to like reward them for helping them conquer the Aztecs. They're like, okay, we're gonna like force all the other natives to become our slaves and do our work, but because you helped us, like you guys can have your own state and kind of have a semi-autonomous rule. And then I think they also had a province, like a neighborhood in Mexico City where like you guys can live too. So that's still like a neighborhood in Mexico City, and it's still a state.
Whoa, so they had like a little bit of autonomy before they're like, okay, we'll just let you be a state.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they still like weren't treated great, but they were treated better than all of the other natives of Mexico because they helped the Spanish.
Huh.
But
Well,
we were talking about the Columbian Exchange and how like Europe got potatoes and tomatoes, but
mhm.
it was kind of a raw deal for the New World because they just got a bunch of foreign diseases that like I've like wiped out like 90% of the native population, which is wild.
What's crazy is though that it wasn't the first contact
No,
that
I think the worst of it happened. I don't know, maybe.
before.
Oh, I know in North America, a lot of
Yeah.
it. I think maybe when Columbus arrived, it hadn't happened, but when the British arrived in North America, the worst of it had already happened in North America.
Do you think the Viking incursions? So
No,
I didn't
no,
even.
it was not the Viking incursions. It was fishermen.
Oh,
Yeah, like fishermen. I guess like this was after Columbus, but then fishermen from Scotland or somewhere in Europe like did have some contact with North America, and they think like it may have started there, or just it started with the Spanish in Central America, and then that like spread to North America and South America.
so 90% of the population was decimated by disease, and I just want to see when that started. I don't think there's because it did happen after, but I think there was like yeah. So
Because
it
I
actually happened in the 1400s, right before Columbus arrived.
um really because
Yeah,
because I do know when Cortes was trying to take over Tenochtitlan, smallpox spread throughout the Aztecs, and that like helped him a lot.
I think this was in North America.
I think there were like, I think there was it like it didn't just happen in like one massive epidemic. There was like waves of it that
Yeah,
like happened over the course of 200 years.
yeah. So little bit on the Viking excursions. There's actually some pretty funny stories from their first interactions with uh,
Yeah.
the Native Americans, and they call themselves they used to call the Native Americans Skralings.
Yes. Which that
Scra-
Skraeling sounds something out of like Tolkien
yeah,
or Game of Thrones.
yeah. So the Skralings, so is the name that the Norse Greenlanders used for people they encounter in North America. So they used to trade with them, but they used to trade, and everything was like going decently fine. Um, so to give a little background, so the Greenlanders in Eric the Red saga recount around the year 1000 AD, Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red, sailed from Greenland to lands further west and came upon a place with abundant resources and fertile lands, which he named Vinland. And basically, in the sagas, one dude they like land in Vinland, but they don't call it Vinland left. And then this dude comes back, like he went out looking for food, water, whatever. He comes back absolutely hammered, and I think he's named in the sagas is like Bjorn the Hammered, like Bjorn the Drunkard, because he came back and he had all these berries in his hand that like had fermented a little
Oh,
and
okay.
had alcohol. He's like, look, there's vines, there's grapes. So
Yep.
that's where Vinland comes from. So Newfoundland is actually they thought it was Foundland, but it's like Vinland.
Yeah,
Like
that's what they think new like yeah, they think the Vinland they were talking about was Newfoundland.
yeah, so then there's more voyages. Thorfinn Karlsefnen in the controversial Freydis Eriksdottir. Why is she controversial? But basically, they tried settlements, but they kept getting in fights with the Skrælings. But the funniest thing is that, like, basically, at one point, they're trading with the natives, and one of their bulls, their cattle, goes nuts like he just gets off a boat, the cow like sort of goes into a craze and gets riled up, and it really startles the natives, and the Vikings were like, yo, don't kill our cow. I know he's going nuts, but like think about it, domestication was something so foreign to the like nomadic peoples, and they were like, fuck it, like we got to kill this cow. So basically a fight breaks out because they're trying to kill this cow that's like going nuts. I think it was a bull, and they end up fleeing. The Greenlanders end up fleeing, and basically one dude, and this is the exact translation, picking up a sword which one of the Vikings had dropped in his hurry to run like a girl, Freydis, so this is one of the female Vikings, turned to face her pursuers, the natives, baring her breast and preparing to meet her death with much honor as possible under the circumstances. So basically this chick picked up this dude's sword who was running away and got killed by an arrow, and then basically whips her tit out to fight these guys coming at her. And they like, the natives were like, whoa, 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 whoa. And she survived.
All right, let's go.
And like, basically I think she threatened to cut off her boob. Like, it's the wildest thing.
How would that help?
I don't know, but it worked.
Okay.
I mean, like, just if you're in a fight, just like act super crazy to scare people. That always works.
Yeah.
So cross culturally, for people who have probably like millions of years of separation of culture and language, like crazy always works.
The animal aspect is crazy because, the only domesticated animals, I think, in the New World when the Spanish arrived were turkeys. Mexico did have turkeys.
Oh, yep. Guinea pigs.
Yep. Guinea pigs. They had small dogs. They had like chihuahuas that I think they would actually raise the chihuahuas like for food. Or they would use them as pets until they got hungry and then eat them. And then llamas.
But they didn't ride them.
No, the llamas they would use them to carry heavy things. But you couldn't ride them.
There were no beasts of burden, as they describe animals that aren't just for food.
Well, no, I think the llamas could be used to carry things at least. So that's kind of like a beast of burden.
Yeah.
Or
pack animal. Okay, so they were
a pack animal. And then horses, the crazy thing about horses is that horses are originally from North America, but then they crossed the Bering Ice Bridge and then went extinct in North America, but flourished in the steppe lands. And I think first got domesticated in like where Ukraine is now. But when the Spanish arrived on horses, like the Aztecs thought they were giant deer. They were like, these people are on some, and they thought they were either giant deer, or when they saw like a man on it, they thought it was like all one animal, like a
centaurs.
Yeah, a centaur.
That's what the Greeks, because the Greeks didn't ride horses in battle. So the horse people from the East, they thought were centaurs.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then the Spanish brought war dogs, which sound terrifying. They were dogs like wearing armor, and I think they were probably mastiffs or something like that, like a giant dog. So when the native Mexicans saw those, they were like, the Spanish have somehow like trained leopards to like fight in their battles.
I mean, they must have been like Canary Island dogs. Have you ever seen Canary Island? Because those.
No, but that would make a lot of sense, because the Spanish would usually stop in the Canary Islands on their way.
If you look up the Perro de Presa Canario, they look like mastiffs, and it's a Spanish breed of large mastiff or catch dog type. So this would it also used to hunt boar. So hog hunting's fascinating to me, because I really want to go hog hunting. But there's sort of like a brindle cane corso type. Like these dogs are terrifying. So
if you go hog hunting, some of those hogs were probably originally from Juan de Soto brought the first pigs to North America, and they got free, and they became like the feral pigs we have today.
Yeah. I mean, definitely want to do that. But if you look up the Perro de Presa Canario, it is a medieval looking beast. It's like something that you see was definitely chained up, gnawing on a bone next to like on a ship. Terrifying looking dog.
And if the only dog you know is a Chihuahua, and then you see one of those like wearing armor, that's got to be terrifying.
Dude, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, and they train these dogs to eat people. Like, let me find the exact like source, but and it'll take 1 second, but like basically they would sick the dogs on native peoples just to scare the rest of like a lot of the slave population when they enslaved them to do, and it was the most terrible things.
I mean, yeah, because we were talking about the silver mines. They like the Spanish had a rule that like every native in South America had to work for at least 1 year in the mines. And like those conditions sound horrible because they would use mercury, I think, to like oh God. I don't know how mercury is used, but it's used when you're mining silver. So like all these natives were just handling mercury like for a year.
Oh my God, yeah. Basically, oh my God. It's really fucked up. So Christopher Columbus's army used indigenous people as dog food. They were known to feed live babies to dogs in front of their horrified parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, during battle it was said that natives were more likely to surrender to the Spanish if they had dogs with them, even in cases when they had fewer men. Many of the conquistadors, despite being devout Catholics, Catholics were not the best people. Many didn't see value in the life of natives, and others literally found sport in killing them. Las Casas again wrote that it was not unusual for one Spaniard to say to another, quote, "Lend me a quarter of an Indian to give my dog some meat until I kill one next," end quote. They thought that was giving them the meat of the natives would make them more vicious when used in battle.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Jesus.
Las Casas was like the whistleblower of his time. He was like the first. He was a Franciscan priest or something, and he was like the one guy to go back to Spain and be like, "Hey guys, so like what we're doing in the New World is not okay." And he wrote a book, and then that book became popular in the rest of Europe, and then the rest of Europe, even though they weren't great people either, they started to like look down on the Spanish and gave the Spanish like in general a really bad reputation.
Oh my God. In the Battle of Vega Real in 1495, 20 Spanish Mastiff dogs were unleashed on the Arawak natives, with each dog killing around 100 people in an hour. That doesn't make sense.
That is insane, but I don't know. That may have been exaggerated a bit, but I could see it.
They're saying these were 250-pound Spanish Mastiffs.
Because like if they're trained to go for the neck, all it takes is one bite and you're dead.
I mean, I don't think these Spanish Mastiffs, I just Googled them, look pretty tame. I mean, they look like livestock guardian dogs. These must have changed. It was like the Prezzo Canaria
500 years ago.
Yeah, like it must have been more like those giant Mastiff of the Canary Island dogs.
Oh, I think a Spanish Mastiff could be. Obviously it looks kind of cute now, but if it was trained from a pup to be a war dog, it probably wasn't.
Oh my God! So the males do get up to 220 pounds. So the 250 pounders that the Spanish Mastiffs that they like trained for war. Holy shit! Oh my God!
Yeah. Dogs aren't now. Now dogs in war are just used to like sniff out bombs, right? Or I guess.
Or no, there's attack dogs. They killed Bin Laden.
Attack dogs?
No, they didn't kill. Sorry, no, they used them in the raid on Bin Laden. They sent them in first. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, honestly, police dogs these days are pretty vicious.
Yeah. Ponce de Leon's dog Basirillo was a famous one. Jesus Christ, this sounds like the most terrifying. Basirillo. Yeah. Oh, okay, so this is actually the Spanish Alano was said to be what this specific dog looked like. Um, Jesus. And it looks
Oh, I
more like
found.
a
Yeah, I just
yeah.
found a really cool photo where they're wearing like spiked collars, and then one of these dogs has two like knives attached to its head.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my god! I don't know how like realistic that is, but geez.
I mean, that kind of does sound realistic because think about it, if the dog's gonna bite somebody, it's gonna put its head in there too and just stab
Yeah,
them. Oh my god,
fucking war dogs.
dude. I mean, war dogs today. I mean, with the invention of guns, gigantic dogs are probably like super easy targets.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
No,
like they're
now I
mostly
think I think
Belgian
the next type
Malinois.
of war dog we're gonna have are those like Boston robotics dogs,
Yes.
which they
Jesus.
have like the episode of Black Mirror where they have
Yeah,
those is terrifying.
that's absolutely terrifying. But
Uh,
yeah, I mean, war dogs are insane. What? I mean, well, have you heard about the war bear that the Polish used?
I did.
Wojciech?
Yeah, was that real? I didn't know if that was like a myth or not.
Yeah, so it's real. They have, I think it was more of a pet. I don't know. And they really should make a movie about this and they should like
Oh
make
yeah,
it like
it was
Cocaine Bear.
Wojtek.
Wojtek.
Woj.
So Wojtek was definitely, it was a Syrian brown bear, which was a little smaller of a bear, a little more like a Russian brown bear, that like the dancing bear type
Yeah.
that would be in circuses. Died in Scotland at age 21. So like this Polish artillery group, Anders army left the Soviet Union for Iran. So it was like yeah. So then they took the bear with them um, into battle. And for some reason, during the Italian campaign, while fighting alongside the British Eighth Army, the bear started mimicking the humans and bringing boxes of ammunition, which was a 25-pound ammunition crate which held 4 shells during the Battle of Monte Cassino. So some people said that he was only carrying empty boxes, which may have not helped. But if a bear just hung in there with you while you're firing off artillery and like even like tried to pick up a box and just hung in there, you definitely make up stories about the bear carrying the artillery just like so the bear could chill with you.
Yeah. I mean, if a bear is willing to go to war with me, I don't like care if it actually fights. I would just be happy to have it in the foxhole with me.
Wojtek initially had problems swallowing and was fed condensed milk from an old vodka bottle. He was subsequently given fruit, marmalade, honey, and syrup, and often rewarded with beer, which became his favorite drink. He also enjoyed smoking or eating cigarettes, as well as drinking coffee in the mornings. He also slept with other soldiers if they were ever cold at night. He enjoyed wrestling with the soldiers, and there's video of him wrestling with soldiers.
Yeah.
So he was in Iraq, Syria, Palestine, Egypt. And then when they went to the Battle of Monte Cassino, and the way they got him on the boat, the English were like, no mascots allowed. We don't want this giant bear on the boat.
Yeah.
They got him papers to be in the army to get on the boat.
Dude,
So
I mean, imagine like you're freezing cold and you can just sleep with you can sleep with a bear that also loves drinking beer with you.
that sounds so damn chill.
Yeah, I know.
So this bear has like 7 monuments in Poland for it.
Oh my god.
And he died. By the way, he got to like over 1,000 pounds in the Edinburgh Zoo, which is crazy. Yeah. So Wojciech died 2nd December 1963, aged 21, weighing nearly 1,100 pounds, and was over 5'11" in height. So it put on a lot of weight after the war.
Yeah. I mean,
he had PTSD. So
PTSD. Well, he also, he had already done all the heavy lifting. He could keep. Let's just say he enjoyed his retirement.
Yeah. Also, probably to finish off the pod, let's do a little Uganda football update. If you haven't, please check out Ugandan Football Booster t-shirts. They're on the Barstool store. We will link them. Donnie and I have been figuring some stuff out. I actually found this company that is willing to help supply the Ugandan football team with equipment, and I've been in contact with them. Their name is right here, Troper C Football, and they've been making like actually some high quality gloves, football equipment, and we're going to try to get some of that out to them on top of some of the his print ministries equipment out there. We got to raise some more money. If you haven't, there's if you go to my Twitter, there is like a place where you can donate. I know I've been asking a lot of donations lately.
If you don't want to buy a shirt, but you still want to help out, you can go to this QR code, which I have on my Twitter as well, or just go to the His Print Ministries website and just make like a $5 donation.
Yeah,
if
we're actually
like.
We're gonna put the what's it called, the QR code in the video, so it's right here, pointing at it.
Yep.
Right now
we can have the link
donate
in the
there.
Description,
and the link for the shirt will be in the description.
I have heard one of the players reached out to me, and they're planning the Nairobi Mega Bowl, which it's going to be like 4 teams in Africa, or maybe 6 teams in Africa, all playing at the same time in like some sort of tournament.
One's from Baltimore, one of the teams.
Really?
Yeah, we got to figure that out. I'm not going to be able to make it to Kenya for that game. I have a wedding I have to go to, which I don't tell anyone, but I'd much rather be playing football in Kenya than going to this wedding, but I sort of have no choice. So that's a personal issue. But
what's this team from Baltimore?
I don't know. There's like we're trying to get some of these guys, Steven Kinyera and Ashraf, to play in the U.S. They have, if you're a college football coach, these guys, they'll get some NIL deals if you get them on their team. And it'll be great exposure for your program. And also, you may not even have to use a recruiting spot on them if your school is looking for foreign applicants. So if you have a great foreign exchange program, foreign students resource center, please hit us up and we'll send you their tape. We'll send you their some of their transcripts and whatnot, and they will be great assets to your team. This is the best lineman, can play both sides of the ball, and the best running back from Uganda, and they can play. They played international talent. JUCO D3, even maybe D2. But if you're in that category, they have some looks right now, but we're just trying to see as many as we can. And it would be great if we could get them over here. But yeah, so that's where we are on all of the post-Uganda series stuff. We're going to try to help them out as much as we can. We're going to get this shipment over to them of not only just like helmets, shoulder pads, but also like football gloves, like some of the stuff you need to play football, like, actual footballs, actual training equipment from Tropper C. So they're going to be getting a lot of stuff, and hopefully we can help grow the game. I honestly am going to say it right now, we have done way more than the NFL has to grow the game in East Africa.
I mean, the NFL dropped that commercial during the Super Bowl about NFL Africa. I don't know. I think the NFL does a lot of like flag football out there, but
we're promoting tackle.
Yeah, you gotta learn to play the real sport. And also the players are going to have way more fun if they're doing the real thing.
The boys want to hit.
They do.
They do.
They wanted to, you know what? We probably should have had them hit more in practice, because
I
Our
think
tackling was a little rough the second game against Kenya.
I think if they were better rested, they would have made those tackles. I mean,
Yeah.
like they got ran through like tinfoil in the second half, but I mean, hey, we're growing the game.
Yes.
One helmet, one shoulder pad at a time. Donnie, do you have anything else to wrap us up?
No, it was a solid convo. If we do this again, we can talk about the Incans a little bit
Yeah.
because that's a crazy empire as well. But yeah, always a pleasure. It was a good crack.
Great crack. Donnie, if you ever want to come on, you are a reoccurring guest, first reoccurring guest on the podcast.
Yeah, you've been cranking these out. I think I don't want you to get burnt out. So
we're slowing down.
Okay, and so you're gonna try to do 2 episodes a week.
Yes, Tuesday,
right, cool.
Thursday. Pumping out 5 in the first week. That was pretty wild. Very wild. One of those things. I don't know. You just kind of want to get it going, so you just do as many as you can. 5. I don't know. Third. So this is actually, by the time you're hearing it might be Wednesday afternoon. But this has been the first 2 weeks of the podcast, and we've done 7 episodes. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Hopefully you realize that the audio has gotten better these last 2 episodes. Strangely enough, recording at my house has better audio than recording from the office. But hey, shout out Riverside. But what we're going to do in the future is we have some pretty awesome guests coming up. We have basically on Monday, Tuesday, when you'll be hearing it, we have an episode regarding organ donor corruption in the United States. So there's a serious issue of not organ trafficking, which I hope to talk to someone who has some expertise on that. If you have expertise on anything, hit me up. I'm interested in everything. But basically, there's organ list corruption in that people are skipping the list, and we have exact names, and we have people who are operatives trying to pass legislation in Congress to sort of help basically stop the inequality of people who are getting organs.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I mean, Steve Jobs, I know that he waited to get cancer treatment for a while. He was like, no, I'm just going to only eat fruits and vegetables, and that will kind of cure the cancer naturally. And then it got too late, and they were like, all right, you need a whole new liver or pancreas. I'm not sure. And obviously he was one of the richest people in America. So he was able to get the perfect organ he needed just like that. I assume by paying some money.
Yeah.
Is that sort of how it works? Normally you have to be on a list and wait your turn, but if you have the money, you can get it like that.
Yeah. Well, we have some names that we're going to drop about some issues. This one might really get me in trouble, but
okay.
We're dropping names. We're atting people. But it should be an interesting conversation to see how the inequity in how the system works, how everyone should be an organ donor. They might change it so you're automatically an organ donor unless you opt out. But hopefully you guys will find that one interesting. We also, I'm reaching out to a ton of guests. I may have overreached out to guests because now I have a bunch of guests. I gotta.
I think I know you're trying to keep this a current events podcast, but I think it's always good to log some episodes. So if there's a week that you're traveling, you can't record, you already have it pre-recorded, and you could always add a current events segment to the beginning. But it's good to log some interviews.
It's a young podcast. I definitely do need to log some. Yeah, that would be huge. But then what happens if I have too big of a log?
That's not I feel like most of what you're doing, it's not because you're not covering sports where it's you need to talk about this game within a couple a day or two of it happening. Most of these things you could talk about whenever.
Dude, I need to get back into sports. I started this podcast and I'm forgetting about sports. I mean, The Tyson Fury fight and Usyk fight this weekend. I might just put out a pod about that fight. That's an idea. Just an Usyk fight pod. Like, it's going to be a great fight. I mean, Tyson Fury is looking super skinny right now. This will be a good clip. Tyson Fury came out in the event fight week starting with against Usyk. I think this is going to be the greatest heavyweight bout of all time. The first time that all the belts will be united since Lennox Lewis. I think he's been taking Ozempic. He got hurt 3 months ago and he got that cut. And I think it's because he needed to lose more weight.
Listen, I had someone comment on one of my videos and they're like, have you been taking Ozempic? Like, it's not always Ozempic. You can just like lose weight naturally.
I mean, the thing is Tyson Fury, he was 274 pounds against Ngannou. And I think he's the lightest he's ever been fighting. And he was 245 in his lightest fight. So he might be 230. His weight and his ability to just lean on people with his weight was a huge advantage. Like that wears people down. So if he's lighter, I know he's got to be fast. I know he's got to be quick against Usyk, who is much faster, much quicker. You know, he's basically almost like a Canelo type skill set, just bigger. And that's going to be amazing to watch. It's basically all of Fury's weaknesses. Like Fury, he's been just fighting big guys, big punch power, not as technical. Like Wilder, he hasn't fought Joshua yet, but I even think Joshua would be a problem from a technical standpoint from him compared to Ngannou, which he didn't look good against. But I think he's in killer shape. It's scary to see him this light because it might be a huge disadvantage, but he might just be able to compete at the lighter weight class level at the more skilled footwork, bobbing and weaving. He's lean and mean. We'll see what happens. I mean, I can't wait to watch it. But also like Usyk, he's got a whole country behind him. But so getting back to the sports, guys, football season, we're definitely gonna be doing some more football stuff, trying to get some football guests on because I forgot that, you know, a lot of you know me as Billy Football. So Donnie, thank you so much for coming on. Please buy the Last Chance Uganda t-shirt. We'll be including all the links and everything. Uganda, please subscribe, leave reviews, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Audio Crack. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Sláinte.
Awesome.